Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at a really cool Collecta figure. It's one that was kind of requested a little while back. I didn't get around to it until just recently, as I didn't actually have the figure previously. But it's one that I knew I really did want to get a hold of because I'm a huge fan of the species itself. This is the Collecta Majungasaurus, and it's a really cool looking figure, although I think we can all say for sure looking at it straight away it's not your most accurate interpretation of a Majungasaurus. However, it's also a very outdated figure. It's been out for many years at this point, so things change consistently, and this figure, again, we're not going to base it on accuracy due to its age. It is not something that is meant to be an accurate current image of a Majungasaurus, again, due to its age. I'm not entirely sure. I just knocked it over. When it was released, let's see if we can find the year here on the underside. So 2010, that was quite a ways back. We've got a figure here that there is absolutely no need to really look at in scientific accuracy terms anymore due to how often things change with different dinosaurs. But let's go ahead and get a closer look at this figure regardless, because I think it looks super cool. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Majungasaurus, you can see some pretty nice detailing up here on the head for the most part, and the figure is very small, so there is a shocking amount of detail included up here on the head sculpt of the figure for its very small size. You can see the teeth inside the mouth are sculpted and painted pretty nicely. There's not really any sloppiness for the most part that I can see on the teeth. They look fairly decent, I will say that. You can also see the tongue, and the inside of the mouth is painted with a nice pinkish coloration, which is a fairly realistic look, I think, for the figure. Up here on the head sculpt, you can see some really nice paint variation, a few different tones of brown, lighter and darker browns, as well as even a yellowish coloration is kind of included in the palette area. The eye is painted with a yellow and a black pupil, and you can see it's glossed quite nicely, so it shines pretty realistically. Overall, you do have, again, some nice texturing to the face and head area of the Majungasaurus. Up on the top of the figure, you can see that kind of trademark look to the Majungasaurus with that almost horn-like look up here on the top of the dinosaur, almost making it look like it would be a unicorn. But you can see that I think is just a little bit too elaborated. It's definitely a little too big in comparison to, again, how it probably should look, but we're not really looking at this from an accuracy standpoint. We're looking at it just for what it is, a very old interpretation of a Majungasaurus, and I think it still looks pretty cool overall. I do quite like the paint scheme on it, a really nice kind of a reddish-brown look for the figure. Then once we get to the neck, you can see some ridges picking up here on the back, as well as some more pretty nice looking skin texture. Again, some nice color variation included. You have some darker coloration down here on the underside, kind of like a very dark gray, which looks pretty interesting overall. And then coming down here into the body, you can see the shoulder blade a little bit there. You've got the arms sculpted out. They're nice and small, almost too hard to see. There we go. You can see the hands, and they're pretty decent looking. You don't really see any nails painted on them or anything like that, but it looks pretty good. Again, for its size, it's a really small figure. You can see a little bit of like a lighter brown showing up in certain spots on the body as well. Some nice skin wrinkling going on, kind of some skin pulling off of the body with this leg, pulling that skin back. That looks pretty nice as well. You can also see some darker coloration right in that area. And then coming up here to the back, you can also see some darker coloration. It seems like they've given it a really nice dark wash overall, and honestly, I think I quite like that. I think it looks really, really cool on the figure, and you can see quite a few different rows of like osteoderms or ridges that run along the back up here. Some nice musculature here in the thigh and calf region. You can also see the kneecap there. Moving down into the foot, that foot does look quite nice. Very nicely painted nails. You have a dew claw back here as well. Coming back up here into the tail, you can see some more really nice scale detail as we move out the length of the tail. The tail has a very nice curve to it, nothing that I feel like is unnatural or anything like that. Pretty nice looking curve to the tail. And then over here on this side, you can see the dinosaur is looking down in a downward position, like maybe it's about to bite something that's nice and small and grab himself a nice little meal down there on the ground. But as we come back here, you can see how the detailing of the neck is kind of playing off of that. You can see like the creases in the neck kind of stretching a little bit, I think, right there, and I think that looks really quite nice. You can also see generally almost like some musculature there in the neck region, a little bit of hanging skin here in the throat region of the Majungasaurus. Again, coming back here, you can see the arm once again, just like we had seen on the previous side. A little bit of light dry brushing with that yellowish coloration has been added. Some more really nice skin texturing here in the stomach region. Again, that darker black coloration right there in the lower part of the stomach, but then quite a bit of variation of color as we lead up here into the upper part of the back with some more different variations of browns and even some yellows a little bit there included. You can see the hip bone again over here. You can see the really nice musculature of this leg as well. The kneecap is present. The skin's kind of wrinkling there as this leg is pushing into the body over here on this side. Pretty nice looking foot sculpt yet again. Lots of really nice color variation included on this figure as far as the different tones of browns and blacks that they've used. Nicely painted nails again over here on this side. And then we lead up here into the tail once again with that really nice curve. The underside also sports some pretty nice detailing overall, but the figure as a whole, again, isn't the best Majungasaurus figure that we'll probably ever have or that we've ever seen, but it's definitely a really cool, outdated looking Majungasaurus figure. Another really nice aspect to the figure is the fact that it can stand quite nicely. You can see it does balance really nicely there on its own 2 feet. For a size on this Majungasaurus, for a length, again, it is a pretty small figure. You are going to see it come in at closing in on about 5.5 inches, but not quite, maybe a little over 5.25 inches, I think, if we actually get that. There we go. You can see it probably pretty good right there. It's closing in on actually about 5.75 inches, or about 14.5 centimeters for a length, and then for a height, the highest point, if I don't knock it over, the highest point is probably going to be the back, and you're going to see that at about 2.25 inches, or around 5.5 centimeters. Probably not the best position for you to see that, but that's what it was. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Collovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Collecta Majungasaurus, and you can definitely see now that this figure is quite small and really sports a good amount of detail again for its very small size. I feel like it should be pretty impressive looking at it next to these figures now, showing you the very small size, and yet it still manages to maintain some really nice detailing and some really nice paint. Even if it is outdated, I still think it's a really cool looking Majungasaurus, especially for its size. So this Collecta Majungasaurus is a pretty nice looking figure. Again, accuracy out the window due to its age. It's not your most up-to-date, beautiful-looking, accurate Majungasaurus. But what you will find is a really cool-looking interpretation of Majungasaurus from that time period, from Collecta. The sculpt is really quite nice as far as the very fine detailing goes. It's not as highly detailed as most current Collecta figures that you would see, but again, it's kind of from that transitional period where Collecta was starting to improve a good bit and create better figures than I think they were initially. Now they're like one of the best for sure, but this is from a time period where they didn't include as much detail, again, as you would see currently, so we have to look at the figure in a different way than we would now. But even taking all that into consideration, I still think it's a pretty nice looking Majungasaurus figure. You have some really nice paintwork on it as well. I love that kind of reddish brown look to the figure, and they've given it a really nice dark wash, which is something I don't think Collecta does very often anymore, and not often enough, is include a nice dark wash on their figures. And I really think that continuously a nice wash will really bring out the detail on a figure and up the level of realism on any figure that it is applied to. And you can really see that here with this one, this Majungasaurus. I feel like that dark wash did wonders for the figure and its overall appearance. But again, sculpt-wise, it looks pretty cool, kind of walking along with its head down, like it's about to grab some sort of a small animal, some sort of a small, maybe a baby dinosaur or something, and get itself a nice easy meal. Paint-wise, it's pretty nice as well. I do like the coloration. I like that it's not overly flashy, and definitely a pretty realistic look, I think, for a Majungasaurus potentially. And overall, the very small size of the figure, I think, makes the figure as a whole pretty darn impressive, with it having some really nice sculpt and detail at a smaller size. It, again, is something that can fit into pretty much any collection, but also is extremely impressive in the sculpt and paint department with its very small size. So a pretty cool looking figure from Collecta. Due to it being out for so long, I think if this is something you're interested in, you should probably get a hold of it fairly soon, because I couldn't imagine it being in production for too much longer, because again, this is a pretty old figure on the part of Collecta, and I have a bad feeling that a lot of their figures, the older ones, will end up going retired sometime in the near future within the next couple of years, and this Majungasaurus could potentially be one of those, I would imagine. Again, being released for so long and having a really outdated sculpt, Collecta really likes to keep their figures up to date, it seems, and I'd imagine it's probably only a matter of time before they release a newer Majungasaurus, so make sure you head to the description, as I will include a link in the description to this figure on everythingdinosaur.com, so make sure you head on over there, pick yourself up this really cool looking Majungasaurus figure, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.